But we're here because every parent I know, and I think every parent in America, is terrified. Get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking? In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong.
Welcome to the Don't Get So Emotional podcast. I'm Paul and I'm joined by Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Paul.
So this is your topic, this episode.
Yeah, I think my pitch to you was that kids are doomed in this kind of era that they're growing up in.
Go on.
I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, but yeah, I mean, with my girlfriend's got a son that's 9 years old, and my cousin's got kids, and just watching what they're into and what they do and how they're growing up and even what they're doing at school, it seems so different to even when I was a kid. I don't know what it would be like compared to when you were a kid, but back in those days.
He's an old man.
70s, I was a kid at school, and the 80s is when I was a teenager.
That was a long time ago.
I spoke to my son, he's 15, and I spoke to him yesterday. I said we were going to do this episode, and I said, would you like life without a mobile phone, without the internet? And do you know what he said? Yes. No, he said yes.
He said yes.
He said
but
yes.
They'd say that, but they don't mean it. I mean, I'm not even sure I could survive without a phone now. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's because you love TikTok.
And that's a fact.
No.
Oh, sorry.
But listen, you're a good example to talk about this because you've experienced probably half of your life without it, without the internet and without phones and without social media, and then half your life with. So what's better?
Well, look, growing up without the internet, I had a fantastic childhood. I went out and did stuff. And I think kids can have, obviously they can get bullied now. The only time I'd get bullied would be if I bumped into someone. People wouldn't ring me up and abuse me, so I think that's the thing. But also something you mentioned, which I think is interesting. When I grew up, there were definite tribes. Okay. So when I grew up in the early 70s, you had punk and you had disco. And then in the 80s, you had the ska revival. And then you had new romantics. And you had definite sort of tribes that you could follow. And, the charts would reflect that. They would do a mixed match of everything. But there isn't that anymore. There are no tribes. There's just music.
It's awful.
I think what I kind of wanted to get into is like from kids from a very young age, so from toddler to kind of 10, to me, they're the kind of important years that will kind of, determine how you're going to be in the future. And I just think these devices that kids have, it's just giving them no hope. They're just, sorry, my cat is being annoying again. I just think kids spend so much time on these devices that they're not going out and climbing trees and playing football and making friends and whatever. It's all just online. Like my girlfriend's son, he comes home from school, wants to go on his devices, and he'll be on them for as long as we let him. And if he had it his way, he'd be on them all of the time, and at weekends, I feel like kids are just addicted. They can't live without them. And I know your son said, and my cat is now trying to push the whole thing.
I can see
over.
You're moving about a bit.
I know. I'm having a tug of war with my cat.
Crazy cat.
I know your son said that he'd prefer a life without it, but he probably hasn't really known much difference. So if you was to take his phone off him,
He'd go mad.
He'd hate you.
Yeah. Talking about social media, Mark Zuckerberg actually was in the news.
But we're here because every parent I know, and I think every parent in America, is terrified about the garbage that is directed at our kids.
I think the algorithm that these social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all the others use, I think it's it's designed to keep people because they know what you're watching and they show you more of what you've watched.
I have 2 teenagers at home, and the phones they have are portals to predators, to viciousness, to bullying, to self-harm. And each of your companies could do a lot more to prevent it.
They need to be held accountable for the harm that they've done, and they have done proper harm to kids and vulnerable adults as well. And it's kind of like they get a free pass because they're so big.
Well, one of the things that I saw on there, which I could not believe, was if people searched for content and it would come up with a warning saying these results might show or whatever, right? And it would, underneath there was a button that said get help or get, you know, resources or whatever. But underneath that was a button that said see results anyway.
And then you gave users 2 choices. Get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking?
All right, Senator.
What I understand, get resources. In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong.
They're providing people that are looking for this stuff, essentially a search engine to find it. And then the guy turned around to Mark Zuckerberg and said, how many people, I want to know, how many people have clicked that button that said see results anyway? And I want to know what you did as a result of that. Did you monitor any of these people? Did you report any of these people? Like, and he was like,
I don't know, but the
you don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. But
Well, you know what, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's interesting you say you don't know it off the top of your head, because I asked it in June of 2023 in an oversight letter, and your company refused to answer. Will you commit right now to within 5 days answering this question for this committee?
we'll follow up on that.
Is that a yes? Not a will follow up. I know how lawyers write statements saying we're not going to answer. Will you tell us how many times this warning screen was displayed? Yes or no?
Senator, I'll personally look into it. I'm not sure if we have.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer that.
It's a flipping joke.
it's absolutely insane. They completely caught him off guard, and I didn't know about that. But it's mental.
Did I hear you say in your opening statement that there's no link between mental health and social media use?
Senator, what I said is I think it's important to look at the science. I know people widely talk about this as if that is something that's already been proven, and I think that the bulk of the scientific evidence does not support that.
Really? Let me just remind you of some of the science from your own company. Instagram studied the effect of your platform on teenagers. Let me just read you some quotes from the Wall Street Journal's report on this. Company researchers found that Instagram is harmful for a sizable percentage of teenagers, most notably teenage girls. Here's a quote from your own study. Quote, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls." Here's another quote. Teens blamed Instagram, this is your study, for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. This reaction was unprompted and consistent across all groups. Now, I know you're familiar with these stats because he sent you an email where he lined it all out. I mean, we've got a copy of it right here. My question is, who did you fire for this? Who got fired because of that?
Senator, we study all of this because it's important and we want to improve our services.
Well, you just told
And
me
I
a
think
second
that
ago you studied it, but that there was no linkage. Who
Senator,
did you fire?
I said you mischaracterized.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all
Who
these
did you
different
fire?
tools. Senator, I don't think that's.
Who did you fire?
I'm not going to answer that.
Do you know who's sitting behind you? You've got families from across the nation whose children are either severely harmed or gone, and you don't think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took? The fact that you didn't fire a single person? Let me ask you this. Have you compensated any of the victims?
Sorry?
Have you compensated any of the victims? These girls, have you compensated them?
I don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help
Senator,
with counseling services, help with dealing with the issues that your service has caused?
Our job is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you
across
going
our
to compensate them?
Senator, our job and what we take seriously is making sure that we build industry-leading tools to find harmful
To make
content,
money.
take it off the services.
To make money.
And to build tools that empower parents.
So you
that
didn't
help
take
more
any
people.
action, you didn't
That's
take
not
any
true,
action,
Senator.
you didn't fire anybody, you haven't
not true.
compensated a
That's
single
not-
victim.
that's
Let
not
me
what I
ask you
said.
this, let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well-
They're here, you're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
No one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
I don't think kids use Facebook very much because they don't want to be on Facebook because their parents are on it. And you know, when you're a kid, you don't want to go anywhere where your parents are. You wouldn't go to you wouldn't go to a bar or pub if your parents were there. You'd go to somewhere else, wouldn't you? No,
the demographic on Facebook has changed dramatically over the last decade or so. It's full of what they call boomers now. So it's it's more likely to have your parents on it. It's more likely to have your aunties, uncles, and grandparents on it.
Yeah.
Than it is to have younger kids. I don't think they're interested in Facebook at all. But I also think that Facebook has kind of had its day. Although I do think it will be around forever, and it will probably just continue to evolve and try to adapt to modernize itself. But I do think it's kind of had its day. It was the first of its kind, and it's just kind of a bit dated now. Like Pages, I find useless. I mean, no one uses them. No one uses them. Like, I'm a fan of multiple celebrities and this, that, and the other.
Reality shows, Britney Spears.
I follow them on Twitter or Instagram. I don't go and follow their page on bloody Facebook because it's clunky. The way that the information and the visuals are presented is clunky. I don't want to look at a feed of it's just presented in a bad way compared to Instagram or Twitter. It's just too clunky.
I don't actually use Instagram. I don't like it. I think it's just women posting pictures and selfies, and it drives me mad.
Well, you're following the wrong accounts.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Instagram is the simplest out of all of them because it's just literally, I mean, before it sort of transitioned to video and all of that, it was just simply a wall of pictures that you chose to share with people. And it was essentially making a version of your camera roll public.
You really want to do that?
And that's obviously evolved into video and stories and this, that, and the other, but it's still relatively basic, whereas Facebook's really clunky. Twitter, I think, simple as well, but it's more of a, I don't know, it's more digestible than Facebook, in my opinion. And TikTok, again, actually, do you know what? TikTok might be the simplest out of all of them because it's literally just scrolling video after video after video, and it's all based on algorithm. You very rarely go and look up anything on TikTok. You just open it and immediately start scrolling. That's all you do. And that's what they want you to do.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, which is why I don't use TikTok much at all.
I'm not going to lie.
Don't lie to me.
You're not going to lie.
I'm not going to lie.
Dare lie to me.
Don't lie.
If I'm bored, there's nothing on the telly, nothing to do, I will literally just lay down on the sofa, open TikTok, and just scroll, because it's not all just, teenagers doing silly dance routines and silly shit like that. Some of it's funny.
He's probably lying.
Yes, he is.
And some of it's, it's just funny. So, sometimes even me and my girlfriend will lay there together just going through TikTok because it's funny. It just passes the time.
Read a book. That's what I
Which
suggest.
you probably think is mental.
Read a book or get your RoboCop comics out. That's what I suggest.
Stay out of trouble.
Right, we need to ask people what needs to be done. What needs to be done? What can we do? well, my kids are my daughter's 18 and my son's 15, so they're adults. Well, you know, they're my daughter's an adult. And
I already know what I'm going to do.
what are you gonna do?
He has no clue. He really has no clue.
Well, I've said to Carlene, if we have a kid,
Oh,
it's having my childhood relived.
oh my God!
That is scary.
It will, you know,
Lock it in the
it
room.
will go to football
Don't feed it.
training. it will get a Sega Mega Drive as
50p
its
pocket money.
entertainment on a little box TV in the corner of the room. Yeah,
Right.
and at certain times during the day, it will get to watch cartoons.
It.
Well, he or she,
Okay.
or they, or them.
I'll just stick with my beer.
It can watch wrestling. I will allow it to watch the Attitude Era of WWE or WWF.
I don't even know what that is.
Wrestling.
I don't even know what that is.
The best thing that I ever seen.
Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. That's how my childhood was, watching wrestling, not this bloody American nonsense.
Wrestling's fake.
So you're going to make your kid have to endure all the stuff that you went through, and that's your way of beating the current social media problem.
Well, basically, instead of doing what everyone else is doing, which is, you know, the minute their child is able to speak, you get them a device that they then sit glued to, staring at for the rest of their life. I'm not going to get my child one of those devices. As I said, they will get a Sega Mega Drive, and I'll get them a few games like Sonic or whatever, and, you know, they can play that. And when they're done with that, they can do some colouring in, they can draw some pictures, they can do some arts and crafts and stuff like that.
You owe that kid a childhood.
When they're done with that, they can go out in the garden and cut the lawn.
Yeah, well, that toddler's going to have a lovely life.
Well, probably a better life than a lot of these kids now, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff. We've covered obviously Mark Zuckerberg, whatever his name is. I do think. Yeah, I just think that. If you agree with me that the world's going nuts, please subscribe to the channel and put a comment below, because me and Tom are trying to make sense of it, and it's very difficult to make sense of it because it's nonsensical. That's what it is. Agree?
True.
And it's Carlene, are you there? Is she there?
Hello.
What do you think?
Hello.
What do you think about
Of what?
What do you think about kids and social media?
Well, I think that children, when they grow up, are going to have a lot of mental health problems,
I think they have already.
because they already do now.
Yeah, correct.
That's what I mean. They already do
Oh,
now.
train!
It's going to be
Train! I can
worse.
see a train. If you want to stalk Tom, as I've already said on previous videos, get a map, find a house next to a railway line. That's Tom's house. Yeah, that's Tom's house. Sorry about that. Sorry, Colleen. What were you saying?
Yeah, because obviously when we grew up, we didn't have all of the social media and everything, but obviously a lot of us still struggle with mental health. Now imagine having all of that on top of your mental health as well.
I reckon all this stuff has created children with ADHD.
But maybe that's why a lot of us have mental health problems, because it all came in when we was teenagers.
Oh, and all the food with the additives.
Bloody whatever.
Oh, mate, you're not allowed to open a packet of peanuts on a plane now because it might kill someone.
You have to declare if you've got nuts.
This is not a lie. It might be a lie. I might be making it up, but I'm pretty certain I went on a plane and there's peanuts and it had a warning on the back said may contain nuts. I'm pretty certain I might be making that up. If I'm making that up, put it in the chat. I'm pretty certain I saw that when I went on a flight to somewhere. Okay, well, I think, I think kids do have a hard time of it. I think that I can't imagine being a kid nowadays. I can't imagine going to school now. I can't. I didn't like school back then, and it was very easy, I think. Now, oh God. So it's been an interesting episode. We've been joined by Carleen. Let's point the right way. Carleen, thank you for joining us. If you've got any thoughts on what we've said, sorry about the cat. Hang on. What's this? What's this?
For some kind of nature show.
There we go. Cats on YouTube. They're very popular. He doesn't know what's going on. Bless him. All right. Okay. Right. But it's been an interesting episode, as I've said several times already. Don't forget, on the channel, we've got so much content that you may find interesting if you're enjoying this, or even if you're not enjoying this. So we've got episodes looking at RoboCop. We talk about the post office scandal, how life speeds up as you get older. We've talked about Netflix shows. We've talked about Andrew Tate, AI. We've talked about self-checkouts. And we've even talked about Jimmy Savile. We've talked about everything on this channel. So if you haven't seen them, check them out. We'll be back next week with another topic, which we're not going to tell you about because we haven't decided yet. What are you doing?
You're not taking this seriously.
Right, so it's been good. We will catch you next week, and stick around because we've got some outtakes coming. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Can you remember what I was saying, the last thing?
You were saying about your stepson knows more about animals.
Oh, yeah, about...
Knows more about Pokemon than animals, and when you were a kid, you liked animals.
Hang on, let me start that bit again. When I was a kid, I was really interested in music. You know, I have memories when I was a kid of TV shows, like specific TV shows, or Saturday night TV, or movies, or... I feel like a lot of kids are not going to have any of those memories because all they do is just sit on their devices and that's it.
Can I say, when I was a kid, Saturday mornings was kids' TV. So when I was a kid, there was... Started off with Swap Shop, and then it went on to Saturday Superstore, and on ITV you used to have Tiz Was, and then it went to number 73. But Saturday morning was just cartoons, stuff. Now you turn the TV on Saturday morning, it's all bloody cooking.
They've got not only have they got TV channels dedicated to kids, but they can catch up on you know, recorded stuff, but they can also just watch stuff whenever they like on their own on their own devices.
Yeah, but there was nothing like Swap Shop or Superstore. You know, that was when, you know, there's nothing like that now. Nothing like that.
No, and
they did have something in the 90s with Ant and Dec, didn't they? I can't think what it's called.
So when I was a kid, they had Live and Kicking.
Yeah, Phil Schofield.
Because I genuinely think a lot of these kids are gonna, you know, get to my age and they're not going to have any memories of anything. You know, it's just going to be, I don't know.
I didn't interrupt you. You interrupted yourself. I feel so lucky and so privileged to have been. I know you think the 70s was naff, and you know, but I look back and I had the best time, you know, as a kid growing up, and the 80s. People say the 80s are naff. I think 80s music's better than the music now.
I can't even imagine what it's like at school now. I can't imagine what it's like for teachers at school trying to keep these kids' attention when, you know, particularly in senior school, when you are allowed to have your phone on you, you're just not allowed to use it. But kids, you know, live stream themselves in the classroom. Like, it's fucking, it's insane.
Just out of interest, what is on the telly? Before we had robots, is that a spaceship? On the Is it a spaceship? Oh. It is a spaceship.
I think it stopped moving now, though.
It has. Because it thinks you're a robot.